What's up,
Happy Monday afternoon.
dude? Yeah, man, I'm already looking at this stuff. I asked this question, what's for lunch? Man, I'm sitting here starving.
Not gonna lie, a minute ago I was like, what are my options?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I
What's
say I'm
close, what's
starving.
good?
Yeah, look at this. Turkey sandwich, abuelos, pizza.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, we're going to be done early.
speaking of that,
Yeah.
man, I just want to talk about on our Tuesday nights for our Remedy, our young adult and college group, and we're just really kind of starting into this area of knowing God. I think I've brought some of it up on here, but to kind of go into like maybe I guess a sub B topic of it, maybe kind of a little bit different direction, and it's prudence, just one word, and prudence, and the way that word, what surrounds that word, and it's some people almost think it's like of an ignorant element, or you're lacking something, but it's not necessarily lacking something. It's a little bit of the process of filling what is lacking, and it's kind of interesting. Everything that I've kind of looked at in the scriptures and holding to of what brings this about, and it's not that there is a standard that really has to be reached before it can be expressed, but it is really just, this is everything about the process of identifying where prudence is and identifying how to gain prudence. So real quick, I want to give it the definition of it. The definition of the word prudence is discernment, wisdom, and shrewdness, and the management of affairs, showing the capacity for understanding. And I think that key word of understanding is really what we have to pay attention to when prudence really isn't. I think a lot of people think prudence and they think everything is positive from that word. But the reality is not everything is always positive from the use of prudence. Another definition, mainly the second and third, is a ruse. And so ruse is a ploy, a cunning, crafty deception, and so causing an inaccurate view.
Interesting. Okay.
So you start off with the foundation of truth and understanding, but to get a ruse over someone, or to, I forget the word, show deception to get what you want, and you're with a deceiving perspective, I mean, you always have to start with truth. You always have to start with a strong foundation. And this last week, just looking into this passage I'm about to read, is this is what happens when a good thing turns bad. And paying attention, because I think a lot of times we don't pay attention to when good things turn bad. I think one of the things I used in the blog for the Thursday post was, when did I gain 30 pounds? You didn't identify your love for bread, ice cream, and all these other little things of all these good things turn bad.
Bro, easy.
I'm just saying. There's a reason why a lot of us eat. We like the taste of something, right?
Yeah, man. Ice cream at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
That's of the Lord.
So and it's not that those things are bad, but it's too much of those things are bad. And so, and you'd be surprised. The example I used Thursday, and I hope I'm not repeating this for a lot of you, but coming to the house of God, when that turns bad, and everyone be like, whoa, like that's always a good thing. Actually, God said it wasn't always a good thing, and I'm going to bring up one verse that proves this point, because I'm not trying to pull the wool out, but Ecclesiastes 5. This is the first 9 verses are really amazing when it comes to us being distracted about what we're doing, and that really causes us to make something bad. But right in verse 1, it says, "Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. To draw near to listen is better than to offer sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they are doing evil." And so that last bit, that last portion of that is, they do not know that they are doing evil, because there's a lot of times where God, he has a couple other prophets that come out and says, like, you think I want sacrifices and I do not accept your sacrifices. And Jesus put it this way, it says, they praise me, but their hearts are far from me. And so this is the area of prudence, of how we go about gaining it, it really is a simple task. It's a couple of these passages I just want to bring up is Proverbs 8:12 says this. It says, "I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion." And another verse that's in Hosea, this is a prophet, Hosea 14:9 says, "Whoever is wise, let him understand these things, and whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the upright walk in them, but the transgressors stumble in them." And the transgressors is, and that word, a lot of people don't know the definition of that word. They just think it's the same as a sinner, but it's not. It's one who knows better, one who knows the truth, who knows what they're supposed to have done, but they've transgressed, they've changed to try to adapt to something or try to get what it is that they want to enjoy, of a self-indulgent, not of something that is going to bring truth and light into a situation. And so this whole area of prudence, getting back to Ecclesiastes, God says, man, we should first guard our heart when coming into the house of God. And for me, I'm still working through, like, okay, what does this look like for us now in this? It's not that this is the Old Testament and it's useless, because, man, this is the house of God. Like, when we come into church on Sunday, when we come into our small groups, whatever day that is, man, how do we have our mind set right to where really God is pleased by our presence with him? I think that is a hard thing to really kind of think about, because we think that, as long as we believe in him, that everything's fine and hunky-dory, and that's really not it at all.
Yeah.
It's much more than that. It's our approach which starts off allowing that seed to flourish.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Yeah, and I can only really speak for myself, but then at the same time, just being believers and at church, we can kind of speak into other people's lives and about other people's lives as well. But, I think coming to church, man, we come in here not always expecting to learn, not always expecting something. We don't expect an encounter from God. We just come, and sometimes it's
I just want to know more.
Yeah. We're onboarding some information, or we're checking something off of a list, or this is what we're supposed to do as believers, etc. But when you come to the house of God in a worship moment, Sunday morning, man, we come in with an attitude of, I am going to learn something about my Creator. I'm going to learn something about my Savior. I'm going to worship acceptably. I'm going in here with this notion of, I'm going to be different 1 hour from now. Ideally, we do that. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
It's not always the case. Sometimes the truth is we come to church. I come to church. Man, I came bearing my axe to grind. Like, I'm mad at somebody else, or whatever the case is. I don't know, man. It's an attitude that I think that goes into it, and applying that. I appreciate that, actually, the prudence. So my side of this is actually, it's a response as well, and it's our response. Continuing to go through the story in John chapter 9. Really, we're kind of creeping through this a little bit, but this is Jesus heals the man born blind. So this individual, he was blind from the very get-go, and we know the story. This is actually where some had asked who had sinned. Was this his parents? Was it this guy? And Jesus responds, no, it wasn't either one. It was actually, this whole thing is a teaching moment, and he tells up front this. And we find ourselves in verse 6, and I'm not going to lie. There's a few parts of this passage of what I'm about to read that are going to get in our business. It gets in mine, but here we go. So 9:6, it says, having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with the saliva, and then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud, and he said, go and wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. And so he went and washed and came back seeing. Okay, these two passages. We're jumping into this notion that if there's an act of faith that goes in here, but there's also this act of obedience. There's some work that this guy did. Jesus did the healing, right? He did the anointing. The healing was done, and there was a belief on this man's part, right? We see it in this passage that Jesus does the work. He does the mixing. He does the anointing. He does all of the work, and he tells him this command, go and wash in the pool. And then the response, he got up and he went. Now, paint this picture. I hadn't thought about it until I was reading it and kind of doing a little bit of research into the commentary and what was going on here. This man was still blind. Like he washed him, like he anointed him with the mud, but this guy was still blind, and Jesus still looked at him. He looked at the blind guy and said, "Go wash in the pool." So the blind man still was blind.
Yeah.
There was a struggle that still had to be had here, right?
Yeah.
Like this blind man still had to get up. He still had to go find his way to this pool and wash. And he did it, right? So he had faith in what Jesus had done, but there's still some work that needs to be done here. Like there's still a struggle. And I think we live in a time where we absolutely, we live in this grace, and we live with this grace applied to our life, and we think that we just have to love everybody and this is all going to be great. Like we love people from a distance, or we love people, whatever. But the reality is Jesus in this story, he wasn't just interested in healing him physically. He was taking this teaching moment of he was going to heal him physically, and he was healing him spiritually. This guy used his faith. He got up and he went, but there was some work that still needed to be done.
Yeah.
There was
How far away was he?
yeah, there was a demonstration of your faith that must be produced at this point. And so that's kind of the where I'm going with it is man, if we're going to have this faith and we're going to live inside of this faith, there is an obedience aspect of it that must be acted on. If we're going to sit here and proclaim the gospel, we're going to proclaim that we have faith in Jesus and that we have been saved, there's an obedient side to this. Act that out. Go into the house of God as you are believers, expecting God to move, right? And as we go down that road, I'm not telling you that we have a works-based salvation. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, and this is what we were talking about before, over in James, the book of James, it says that a man is justified by works and not by faith only. And what we have here is this: there's going to be a demonstration of this. Like God does the saving. You are saved, and it is through faith. You see that all through Romans. But there is an obedience that is on our part. And growth is our business.
Yeah.
Jesus is in the business of saving. God is in the business of saving mankind through Jesus. But growing deeper, growing more faithful, growing more grateful.
That's a joint capability.
Man, it is. And that is going in with a heart attitude. I'm going to be closer to Jesus. I'm going to be more graceful to those around me. I'm going to learn more. It's not, and I don't know, maybe this is a bad example of it, but when you sit there and pray for financial stability, you can do that, but not be lazy. You know what I'm saying? Like there is some on your part. We have got to go down. We have got to act on what God has given us. And that grace and that love and that salvation has to be acted upon. So again, that kind of gets in our business a little bit, because I think that sometimes we get into this idea of lazy faith where, man, Christ saves our lives, and then, okay, that's that fire insurance and we're good to go. No, we're intended to act upon that.
Yeah.
And act well and do good.
Yeah.
Like,
and really, God promises a lot of expression of that, of the abundance of what good is. And I think a great example of that is, I think a lot of people don't know, especially now in the public, if you look back at the start of hospitals and colleges, you will find a Christian background.
sure.
Like the ground foundation, like Harvard, Yale, like both of those schools were actually Christian schools.
Right.
Today,
I don't know. Yeah.
It's
up for grabs.
Hospitals, they were founded by churches, by the people, and other people willing to learn and to learn to be doctors and nurses to take care of people, and not just to take care of themselves.
Right.
And not saying that doctors today don't still do that, but let's be honest, there's a nice little paycheck at the end of that.
Yeah, sure. There's a little incentive in there.
I've thought about that. I'm like, can I make it?
Yeah. So I think my encouragement to all of us is to live this prudent life, but do this with our intentions being pure of grow and growth. being intentional and doing our part. Christ saved our lives. I in no way want to insinuate that we had really much to do about that. You know, Christ saved us. He died on the cross for the consequences of our sin, that we would be blameless before the Father, have access to that. But once that has happened and we receive that free gift, it was really expensive to somebody, right? Once we accept that, it is our job to do our diligence, man. It is our job to step up. And so I want to encourage all of us to not take that sacrifice in vain and to grow, and to be better.
Yeah.
So.
And how to be prudent and make your other relationships around you better.
Right.
But
right.
for sure, the one with you and God, but that should overflow
Yeah,
into everyone around you.
It is not our job to shame anybody. It is not our job to do any of those things. It is our job to represent Christ in that grace well, and impact those relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, love you guys. That's all I have.
Yeah. And I'm going to go get lunch. I'm not gonna lie, I might have thought about it. After I was done, I was like, you done yet?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, you got to stop talking. And I really appreciate in the comments those of you guys that go back and forth with us. I know that your lunch hour is valuable. Thank you for joining us. And Julie, I really, really appreciate that you don't put pineapple on your pizza. You are my people. Thank you for that. Love you guys. We'll catch you later.
See ya.